A Hong Kong woman dies in a car crash in Hokkaido, with her husband and daughters injured in the rental car. An Indonesia court finds 19 people guilty of trafficking babies, with ringleader sentenced to 7 years of prison. And the World Cup champions return home, celebrating with nearly 2 million fellow Spaniards. Good evening, you're watching Cable News. I'm Quentin Yang. A woman from Hong Kong has died in a head-on crash in Hokkaido, Japan, with 5 others injured. The collision occurred at around 3 p.m. local time in Furano. Both private cars were seriously damaged. Japanese media reported that one of the cars was rented by a Hong Kong family. The 53-year-old mother died, while the 52-year-old father, who was driving, and his 2 teenage daughters were injured. The other SUV was occupied by a Japanese man and woman, both injured. Local police said the rental car suspectedly crossed into the opposite lane before striking an oncoming vehicle. Investigation is underway. This was the second traffic accident in a week in Hokkaido, involving rental car by Hong Kongers. The previous vehicle was struck by a JR train at a railway crossing, resulting in 5 injuries. A 64-year-old bus driver has been arrested for dangerous driving after his double-decker crashed into a roadside barrier along Tuen Mun Road this morning, leaving 10 passengers injured. 1 man and 9 women aged 23 to 45 suffered minor injuries. 6 were cut by flying glass after the impact shattered the front windscreen and several lower deck windows. All were conscious and taken to Yanchai Hospital for treatment. The crash occurred at around 9 a.m. near the Bellagio housing estate in Shenzhen, when the Causeway Bay-bound Route 952P city bus reportedly lost control. The driver was arrested at the scene. Citybus said it had immediately suspended him from duty and would fully cooperate with authorities. The accident forced lane closures for more than an hour, causing major congestion. Police arrested 78 people during a 2-week operation, targeting child advice, illegal gambling, and drug activities across Hong Kong Island. Jeremy Zhu has more.
Officers smashed 4 gambling dens, including a triad-run 1,000-square-foot establishment in North Point, equipped with mahjong and dining areas to entice locals, generating over $400,000 monthly. Acting on a Hong Kong Jockey Club tip-off, police also cracked down on illegal bookmaking at the Happy Valley Racecourse, arresting 6 mainland men on 2-way permits. Since 2025, the syndicate had booked remote public stands to place live bets via mobile phones, handling over $100,000 in the first 5 races alone. Combined with raids on 10 illegal brothels, police arrested 42 men and 36 women, aged 16 to 68. Several suspects have triad backgrounds. They face charges including operating illegal gambling dens, unlawful bookmaking, drug trafficking, breaching conditions of stay, and money laundering. Jeremy Zhu, Cable News.
The Urban Renewal Authority will launch an upgraded smart tender scheme in the 4th quarter, as lawmakers and surveyors call for tighter contractor oversight and clearer performance tracking. The revamped platform would replace the current self-declaration system with a pre-screening list, using criminal records, prosecution data, and warning letters from the police, ICAC, and Labor Department to vet contractors. Although Development Secretary Bernadette Ling said earlier, the list would not amount to a blanket ban for every offense. Industry professionals believe stricter vetting could reduce bid rigging risks in building repairs, particularly after the fatal Wanfu Court fire. Speaking on radio, lawmaker Chen Hock-Fong, also a URA non-executive director, said authorities are considering requiring all buildings to select contractors from the enhanced platform for repair works. He stressed the URA has no role in the bidding process itself, but helps minimize certain companies' undue influence on owners' decisions. Chen also proposed a scoring system, under which contractors would lose points for industrial accident litigation and other violations, with those falling below a set threshold publicly named. Meanwhile, Vincent Ho, who chairs the task force on building repair, maintenance, alteration, and addition at the Institute of Surveyors, said the URA's role may need to expand. He called on the government to allocate more resources to the URA or set up an independent body to follow up on anti-bid rigging work in the future. An Indonesian court has found 19 people guilty of trafficking at least 34 babies under the guise of adoption and sending some of them to Singapore. The 70-year-old ringleader was sentenced to 7 years in jail. Jamie Liu has the story.
Prosecutors said the trafficking operations began in 2023 when ringleader, known as Lily, was approached by Singaporean contacts asking her to find babies for adoption. The 70-year-old woman then allegedly recruited members who would search online adoption groups to find parents in West Java, hoping to sell their newborns for money. Investigators found that the group illegally bought at least 34 babies and sold them under the guise of adoption to couples in Singapore with forged documents. At the Bandung City District Court today, Lily was given the heaviest penalty of 7 years in prison, while the other 18 people were sentenced to between 3 to 6 years in jail. Indonesian authorities believed at least 10 newborns were taken to Singapore and sold for as much as 18,000 Singaporean dollars or 109,000 Hong Kong dollars each. However, it remained uncertain what today's verdict means for these babies. In light of the case, Singapore announced early this year that it is delaying citizenship applications for children adopted from Indonesia. Jamie Liu, Cable News.
China and the Philippines have summoned each other's ambassadors following a clash at the Second Thomas Shoal, or Ren'aijiao, injuring at least 2. In Beijing, the Foreign Ministry expressed strong displeasure and lodged stern representations with Manila. Jeremy Zhu reports.
Releasing footage of Monday's incident, Beijing accused Manila of provocation after 2 Philippine rubber boats approached dangerously and collided with a Chinese patrol vessel near the illegally grounded warship BRP Sierra Madre. Philippine personnel first used tools, including paddles and long poles, to maliciously attack Chinese law enforcement officers, according to the China Coast Guard. Meanwhile, Manila released counter footage showing a sailor waving a paddle and Chinese officers waving sticks. Alongside footage of verbal altercations, Beijing reiterated that the Chinese side took measures including maneuvering to stabilize and control the situation. In the end, the black rubber boat, apparently outmatched, retreated from the scene of the clash. The clash left sailors on both sides injured. China Coast Guard photos showed an officer with an arm injury, while the Philippines said the Navy personnel sustained a head injury. Beijing stated that on humanitarian grounds, it permitted the Philippines to transfer wounded sailors off the grounded ship using a small boat. The Philippine military condemned Beijing's statement as false and misleading, insisting its navy acted with restraint against illegally intruding Chinese vessels without provoking them. Claiming Philippine personnel maliciously harassed Chinese law enforcement, the Foreign Ministry in Beijing warned Manila to bear all consequences. Jeremy Zhu, Cable News.
New British Prime Minister Andy Burnham is kicking off his first full day at Downing Street after appointing his cabinet. He also unveiled his first major policy, that is, to remove value-added tax from domestic electricity bills for 6 months. Jimmy Liu shares more.
But I can do something to give people some breathing space now, some help with the cost of living.
Keeping the promise he made in his first speech as Prime Minister a day earlier, Burnham today announced plans to reduce the 5% VAT on electricity bills to zero starting from October 1st for 6 months. It aimed to relieve pressure from winter power bills and would save a typical household about £45 or 470 Hong Kong dollars a year. Burnham's government said the measure would be funded by the cancelled digital identity card program. On cabinet picks, the new Labour leader made a surprising choice to appoint John Healey as Chancellor. Just less than 2 months ago, he resigned as Defence Secretary in protest at Keir Starmer's Defence Investment Plan, which helped topple the then Prime Minister. Shabana Mahmood, who was tipped as forerunner for Treasury Minister, remains as Home Secretary. Burnham's recruits included many former Starmer ministers, including ex-Health Chief Wes Streeting as Defense Secretary. Jamie Liu, Cable News.
A former U.S. Army soldier was arrested after allegedly setting a fire and firing a pellet gun outside a federal building in Lower Manhattan, injuring 3 people. Authorities said he appeared to be protesting immigration enforcement. The suspect, identified as 43-year-old Andrew Arabaka, was caught on camera pouring gasoline at the entrance of a federal complex housing U.S. immigration and customs enforcement offices and setting it ablaze.
Oh my God, get away from there!
He then fired 5 to 7 pellets from an airsoft rifle toward the building and threw fireworks into the fire. Federal Protective Service officers and a security guard subdued him, though 2 officers were injured in the struggle. A civilian and immigrant attending a court hearing also suffered minor injuries from the fireworks. The FBI identified Arabaka as an Army veteran from New York, who served from 2001 to 2005 as a mechanic on Patriot missile systems. Officials described him as an anti-American, anti-government extremist, adding he told investigators he did not care if he killed people, whether federal employees or bystanders. Authorities recovered a cache of weapons from his cart, including 2 axes, a hammer, a machete, 3 knives, and multiple fireworks. The FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force is investigating the incident, though no charges have been announced. Inflation in Hong Kong slowed more than expected last month. The Consumer Price Index for June rose by 2% year-on-year, coming in below the market expectation of 2.2%. Netting out the effects of all government one-off relief measures, the underlying inflation rate stood at 1.9%. Analyzed by component, electricity, gas, and water recorded the sharpest price increase, surging by 9.2%. A government spokesperson stated that price pressures for fuel-related items continue to accelerate, driven by the lingering transmission effects of earlier surges in international crude oil prices. Consumer prices are expected to trend upward in the coming months. Now let's take a look at the stock market. The Hang Seng Index ended the day down 10 points. Top active stocks of the day. ZAI surged $328.50. SMIC was up $5.75. Tencent was down $3.80, while YOFC was up $1. Foreign exchange against the Hong Kong dollar. Euro 8.95, Japanese yen 48.18. Onto the weather now, mainly cloudy with a few showers. Hot with sunny periods during the day, mainly fine and very hot in the following couple of days. And that's our news tonight. I'm Quentin Yang. Thank you for watching. Good night.